And bam, bam, bam. What is up? And welcome back to Nando Talk. The Dolphins, we battled 31 to 34. We fell within 3 points of the Buffalo Bills. Wild card weekend in Buffalo. We did it all we could. What a game. Beyond proud of the Miami Dolphins for not only the performance in the playoffs, our third appearance in the last 22 years, but also what we did this season. I get it. It was not the results we all thought it was, but let's remember back to the beginning of the season. We just wanted to get to the playoffs, win a game. While we did not win, we did fight through injuries, through adversity, through a long, tough season. And the Dolphins, we got here. And it is still a tough pill to swallow, this loss, and there is no such thing as moral victories. But it definitely felt good to not get steamrolled. Everyone thought that the Dolphins had no shot in hell, that we were out there just to get mollywopped, that we were going to get run over by Buffalo. And despite injuries to the offensive line, literally starting Lester Cotton, a guard who was on the practice squad on Saturday, Teron Armstead battling through his injuries of his own, hip injury this time to add on to his pectoral, into his hip, into his already his hip and his freaking toe and everything, to finding a new running game now that Raheem Mostert has his broken thumb and out, to playing with the 7th-round rookie Skylar Thompson, who not the greatest game, but definitely an admirable performance by him. Clap it up for a 7th-round rookie, a man who was never supposed to be in this situation. And while, 18 for 45, a little over 200 yards, it's not the greatest stat line in the world, and those 2 picks were ugly. He did throw a touchdown. He did help us battle, and most of this credit is going to go to the defense, who, while letting over up 30 points, they did score a touchdown of their own, multiple sacks. Josh Allen actually had 3 fumbles. We only recovered 1, but we also had, I think, a pair of picks. Like, my God, this defense was everywhere. Okay. And I'm proud of the defense. I'm proud of the Dolphins for their effort, for what they put into it. And I think we all should be, guys. How are we feeling, though? For those tuning in, welcome to Nando Talk. You know me. I'm always going to bring the positive vibes, the positive energy. I'm a little slower than normal. I was drinking quite heavily yesterday at Twin Peaks. I hope those who were able to enjoy the game watched it with their friends, their family, their loved ones, wherever it may be. If you were actually in Buffalo, congratulations to you. That must have been hype to go watch that. And honestly, I'm very jealous of those who were able to experience that kind of energy, that kind of game in Buffalo. But hopefully next year I'll be there as well. How are we feeling, though, everyone? Fins up, boss man Adam. It's been a minute, but since we've had a little chat, but Adam Sadowski, always a pleasure to talk to you, boss. To those, I actually got a pretty cool poster in the mail from the Miami Dolphins today. Look at that little John. So I'm gonna have to be hanging this up on the wall over there somewhere. Somewhere should be added. Should be a nice little time. But how are we doing so far, though, guys? I'm still feeling, I don't know if it hasn't hit me yet that the season's over. And I'm sure once we get to the weekend and football advances and I don't see the Dolphins there, it'll probably hit me a little harder. And I will be doing an end of the season review fully. Right now, this is kind of just my first chance to hop on a mic and kind of spew my thoughts, particularly because, well, with the amount of beers and shots I ended up having in Twin Peaks yesterday, I kind of was out for the count towards the end of the night. So I didn't really get to hash everything out and give my piece, my take, my vibes, my energy to it. I'm trying to fix my camera right now. But to me, the Miami Dolphins stepped up to the plate in one of the toughest games of the year for them and battled. Our defense came out there ready to play. We said before the game that a lot of stars needed to align for the Miami Dolphins to even have a serious shot of winning this game in Buffalo. We needed the offensive line to play good. And while there were times where they gave Skyler some protection, there were definitely some moments where there was a lot left to be desired. We said we needed to play clean to get the run game going. We only had about 40-ish rushing yards. Raheem Mostert was out. Jeff Wilson had 10 rushing attempts for 23 yards. Like, it was not this electric game that we believed it was going to be. We thought we were going to be able to gash Buffalo, and it wasn't to be the case. We never got the run game down and the ground and a pounding like we believed we should. Skylar Thompson again, 18 for 45. I'm going to pull up the exact numbers. I do believe it is 224, but let's double check that right now. No, 18 for 45, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Mixed bag for Skylar Thompson again. Admirable performance for a seventh round rookie. To be a little critical on him, that first play action interception was an absolutely buffoon doofus move, but that pass to Waddle, what Waddle dropped, also definitely impacted the game almost as much as Skylar's first interception. So there, you could sit here and say, well, if Waddle doesn't drop that, Skylar doesn't have to later throw that interception. You could sit here and say that there were plenty of drops on the Dolphins receiving ends. There was, I think, people I've seen as credited from anywhere from 8 to 12 drops, depending on who you ask. And then you could also say that Skylar missed plenty of reads. Like I said, it's a mixed bag. But at the end of the day, he almost did just enough. Yes, the early field goals hurt, but we were still 3 points within 3 points of beating Buffalo. So I can't pin this on him. Like, yes, it sucks that he didn't exactly light it up, and it sucks that those turnovers definitely hit us in the nuts a bit. But that second turnover, you might be able to put that on play calling. It was a deep shot, maybe not necessarily in our best interest. I wish Skylar would have ran a little bit more with his legs. I wish he would have, played a little smarter, picked up a little bit more first downs. But I could also say I wish McDaniel had played a little smarter. I wish he had, maybe known it was first down instead of, oh, I didn't realize it was fourth. Can't have those excuses as the head coach. If everyone in the stadium, everyone on the staff knows it's fourth down, how can the head coach of a team not know? So like I said, there's a lot of factors, play calling, and I've got to relook at the game, guys. Like I said, I've watched it through the bar lens, through a little drunken goggle view, and I've got to rehash it out, recheck it down. It's just a little bit of a painful pill to swallow right now. And hopefully when the film comes out, we'll be able to break it down and see exactly what went down. But all in all, I am proud of this team. I am proud of this defense and special teams particular. The special teams we said had a tough task after Buffalo had 2 kickoff return touchdowns in New England the week before. We really needed our special teams to come through and hang tight, and they did. And they did what they needed to do. And credit to Jason Sanders for hitting his kicks and I don't know if rediscovering himself, but Jason Sanders is back on track to regaining that confidence that he seemed to be lacking before. And I think Dolphins fans ourselves are also refining our confidence in Jason Sanders. We're sitting here, I'm not terrified, biting my nails, clenching my fists, wanting to look away when Jason Sanders steps out on the field anymore. Credit to Thomas Morstead as well. He got a tad banged up and went back out on the field and played through it. That's awesome because as silly as it might sound, losing a kicker or losing a punter is definitely a big blow because, it's not exactly like you have backup kickers and backup punters on the squad. Yes, the punter and the kicker sometimes can overlap that work, but not really. Okay. It's definitely a different motion, different technique. So thank you, Morstead, for your services this season as well. But the defense, guys, the defense played freaking hungry, and I loved seeing that. Okay, a strip sack by Eric Rowe to go along with 5 total tackles. My God, this man was absolutely eating. Okay, Rowe, that was a massive play that allowed Zach Sealer to scoop it up for a nice little touchdown run. Awesome moment too after the game where he gave a game ball to his wife, Hannah Sealer. Shout out to that. Class act, class move. Apparently, he had promised her that if he had ever scored a touchdown, he'd give her the ball, and he did that happen. A man of his word, and hopefully a Dolphin for many years to come. Zach Attack is a great player, a phenomenal defender, continues to be one of the most underrated players in the NFL, and I hope to see a little bit more love from Mr. Zach Sealer. Hope to see him on the Dolphins for a long time to come. Again, doesn't mean much, but I am still looking for the illustrious 5th jersey on that squad. It's boiling down to be either Kader Kohu, Zach Sealer, or Christian Wilkins, depending on how some contract negotiations shake out for those players. but I definitely want another defender on that wall. I do have the Waddle and the Tua, the Holland and the Howard. Holland himself also had a great game. Bada bing, bada bam. He had that nice interception, and we love to see that. I was definitely getting hype at that moment. I thought Javon Holland was about to bring a vintage Javon Holland elite secondary moment like he had last year, just being an absolute game shifting presence. And he really was. He was pretty solid in coverage. I mean, you get a pick, you change the momentum like that. You love to see it. But between our sticky coverage, besides X, who did get burnt for a deep touchdown on Stephon Diggs, albeit we were blitzing almost everyone and he had no overtop help, I still think our defense played very well. And whether Boyer is going to keep his job or not remains to be seen. Barring an awesome defensive coordinator, I'm not exactly sure how much I want to mess up, particularly because it might be a little recency bias, but this was one heck of a performance by the defense. Again, we let up over 30 points, but we would not have been in this game if they had not played that fiery, that hardcore. Okay. Rattling Josh Allen at times throwing off his timing, because like we said before the game, you cannot stop chemistry. You can only speed it up or slow it down. And those big hits, those big sacks, forcing Josh to run around, that strip sack, stuff like that, forcing Josh Allen to fumble 3 times. That was a type of defensive performance we needed to see from our defense. Okay. Get in that man's head. Let him know this is not going to be an easy day. No cakewalk, no walk in the park in Orchard Park. Okay. We were ready to rock and roll. High energy in Highmark Stadium. And I love to see that from this Dolphins defense. Now, if a guy like Vic Fangio, maybe, or, one of those other highly touted defensive coordinators who can bring a big culture shift, very fresh start. If a guy like that is available on the market, now that's a different story. We can think about revamping this defense as long as we're not selling too many pieces, more just re-energizing and reorganizing. If we're going back for a similar defensive coordinator, similar background of the similar caliber, I'd rather just stay with the familiarity of Josh Boyer and hope that with another season of health, maybe another season as a full-time guy without Flores in his mind, which no knock on Flores, but every man deserves to become their own man. And we'll talk about that with Mike McDaniel growing without Shanahan in a second. But Boyer, if he does stay with the Dolphins, I'd be interested to see what he does in another year with more health, with a little bit more time on his hand to get those pieces. I've got to assume that Boyer was one of the reasons we traded for Chubb, so it would suck to lose the guy who pushed sacrificing a first-round pick for that. Ooh, Vic Fangio's interviewing for DC positions. Panthers are interviewing for DC. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know Fangio is talking around shop. I would hope the Dolphins would be able to entice him. We would have to move on from Boyer, obviously, for that to even happen. But dang, if it's happening this fast, hooked up Joe, I'm going to need a lot more water. Wow. So maybe that's off the table. The point is, whether we move on from Josh Boyer or not, if we keep him, I'm down to see what he can do and grow for a little bit. I'm trusting with the vision built forward. If we do move on from him, well, I hope that it's a bigger shakeup and not too big of a shakeup, but definitely a big enough move to reorganize and re-energize this defense that at times shows promise, at times slips up, and you've got to wonder whether it's play calling, whether it's health, whether it's ability, but something has to slightly shift, hopefully, to move forward. Panthers have not hired him yet. There we go. Ross can pay head coach money for defensive coordinator and not care. Agreed. Stephen Ross is 82 years old. And while it's a little bit to speculate and sit here and say that Ross is really vying to win a Super Bowl, that he cares this much, that he wants to see one, I've got to believe that has to be a bit of the case. Nobody likes to lose. Ross does invest in real estate. That's where the fortune comes from, and what better way to invest in your real estate in the Miami Dolphins than to continue to invest and make them look prettier. Get us a nice defensive coordinator. Yeah, man. Pay head coach money for Fangio. Who cares? Who cares, man? For whoever it may be, Ross has the money to match and pay up. Okay. We're talking about one of the richest men in the world. I'd love to speculate. Do it. What is the offseason for? You know what, Hooked Up Joe? You're right. I do have tinfoil hat Thursdays for that particular reason to speculate and walk through. And you're right. It still hasn't hit me that it is the off season, but I could see Steven Ross doing some big time, big boy moves, paying out, shellacking some big money. 82 ain't getting younger. He'll be 83, desperate for a Super Bowl win, maybe. I'd like to see it, maybe for more noise. He's got to be tired of hearing all this little yammering that he does nothing, that he's only a hindrance to the team. It's not like he's going to sell the team anytime soon, so why not put more into it? We're talking about one of the guys who already is one of the biggest Michigan donors. I'm not saying shift away from your alma mater in Michigan, Mr. Ross, but maybe start pouring in some more Dolphins money, start pouring in whether it's more coaching staff, whether it may be, and we're good to go. Oh, no, I understand, I don't even want to say the offseason words. A part of me is even like, should I? The longer I staved off recording, the longer I could say that it was not to be yet, that the season had not ended yet, that we were not there yet. But unfortunately, the Dolphins season is over. It is the off season, and there will be plenty of speculating. And if you like speculation, I will, like I said, tinfoil hat Thursdays. It's always a fun time. It's evolved from think ahead Thursdays, but what better way to think than to throw in a tinfoil hat and let it cook and unload? And speaking of load, yes, man, Steven Ross is absolutely loaded. I think off the top of my head, I think he's like the 42nd or 48th richest man in the world. My God, an absolute monster. Yeah, first to top 10 offense since Marino. I already drank to that. That's what I'm saying. The building blocks, the pieces are there. And so I'd love to see Ross splash the cash around, fix some moves around, and invest in this team and make some crazy things happen. I also don't want to change around too much because there are some things to be proud of. Like, yes, I think it's the first top 10 offense since 96. I want to throw that year just a stab in the dark. But since the Marino eras, for sure, we haven't done this in such a long time. So there is that credit to Mike McDaniel. While there are some things to be annoyed at and disgruntled with the fact that I think he's 1 for 6 or 1 for 5 on challenges in the regular season. He was pretty bad. He didn't get a single one until week 18. While there are some times where he shies away from the run, while there's some time his play calling comes into question, it is his first season as a play caller. There was a lot to be happy as well, since 95. It was so close. But the fact that he got us this first top 10 offense since Marino, since 1995, man, that's an awesome thing to see. That is reason to be happy for. Because think about it. We played with 3 different quarterbacks this season between Tua, Teddy, and Skyler. And our offense was still, for the most part, did what it had to do. There was drop-offs for sure. And I think you could, whether you like Tua or not, whether you like Skyler or not, wherever you stand on that fence, I think you could say it's pretty reasonable to say that the offense was a lot smoother under Tua Tagovailoa for most of the season. Yes, towards December it kind of dropped off, and especially during that Packers game. And Skyler has played admirably, but the fact that we had this turmoil at the QB position, one of the most important positions in football, let alone all sports, and we still had a top 10 offense, still rearranging our O-line, different configurations week to week with tackles and guards going down, guys going out for the season, coming back in, this and that. Our running backs going around and changing as well. A lot happened, guys, on this offense, and yet we were still top 10. And a grand part of that is due to, obviously, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle having phenomenal years. Tyreek Hill actually had the best year of his career, which, obviously, to Skyler, Teddy, we're targeting him a little bit heavier than even Mahomes was, who spread out the ball to guys like Travis Kelce and the speedy mismatches they had on the outside. But Mike McDaniel is still a big part of that top 10 offense, part of why Tyreek had such a good year, part of why Waddle had such a phenomenal year. We had 2 receivers over 1,000 yards. Waddle had, I think, 1,300. Tyreek was an absolute freaking monster. Let me not misquote Tyreek Hill's monstrous year. 1,700 yards for Tyreek Hill and 119 catches, 7 touchdowns. My God, what a monster. Okay. To put that in perspective, his biggest year before that was only 1,479 yards. So he had, I'm bad at math, so bear with me, 250-ish more yards, maybe 240 more yards. Yeah. Than than his best year with the Chiefs. Okay. Granted, that year he had 12 touchdowns, this year only 7. But for the most part, he's had 6, 7, 12, 7, 15, 9, 7 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill is not exactly the touchdown red zone monster. He's more of the big play guy, but he still had a phenomenal year. And yeah, exactly. Over 3K together between Waddle and Hill. These boys ate. Okay. It's phenomenal to see such a great year from two receivers, great pieces. And whether we stay with Tua and we want to develop him and continue to grow, whether we bring in a new quarterback, whatever that happens for this offseason, we can speculate on that later. Having two bona fide top receivers like that is enticing and it is favorable for any quarterback in that situation. So that's a great selling point, whether it's for selling us on Tua or whether it's for selling us on another quarterback of the future. It's lovely to see. Lovely to see by the Miami Dolphins that there is this hope for the future, that we actually have these building blocks. And yes, Tyreek broke the Dolphins franchise record for yardage. Bada bing, bada bam. Absolutely wonderful, man. Ran through 5 OTs, played guys off the street. That is coaching for once. 25th in running, 4th in passing, was second week 16. Damn, I didn't know we were 4th in the passing in the NFL and 25th in running. Like I said, I will be doing a full NFL season breakdown further this week. But Hooked Up Joe, I appreciate you for helping me with some stats right now. Like I said, I'm not hungover, but I'm a tad slow. So that's awesome to see. I had wrongfully predicted us to have a top 10, hopefully even a top 5 rushing offense in the NFL. Said maybe we could have a top tier passing offense. It looks like we were a bit switched up with those. I mean, the rushing game didn't end up being elite, but it was still admirable, I guess. I mean, we don't have a true workhorse runner. We thought that Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds was going to be this beautiful wombo combo, and it turned out not to be so. Edmonds wasn't exactly the answer. We did trade him away to the Broncos, and I think he subsequently got cut after that. So we at least though need to find a little bit more help in the run game. Hopefully McDaniel won't shy away from the run if you think there is a truly talented runner back there. We're obviously not going to get a Bijan Robinson type player, but whether we can entice someone in free agency or bring someone in through the draft, that'd be lovely for Mike McDaniel to have a new toy. But I am very happy with our passing game overall, despite all the ups and downs, despite the quarterback challenges. The boys fought. We were there. I'm not sure if he's our gold yet, man. Like again, there are still talks. None of what happens to the quarterback matters as much as having McDaniel. That is our gold. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not certainly over the moon with McDaniel as I was in the beginning. I still have faith and I still believe that he deserves another year, that he's done enough to give the Miami Dolphins a chance to fight and to continue being relevant. For the first time in a while, we had some noise, we had some energy, and dare I say, this is one of the most fun electric Dolphin seasons we've had in a long time. And a lot of that credit does go to McDaniel and the moves that have happened due to his coming to the Dolphins. What was our offensive line ranking, Hooked Up Joe, if you don't mind me asking? It looks like you got a couple of stats up right now. I know last year we were 32nd ranked, and I know at one point we were 31st ranked this season, which is a step up because of how historically bad our offensive line was last year, but we still do need to finish off those touches on offensive line. If we're going to continue speculating a bit before I go back to the Buffalo game, I do believe that maybe getting a bona fide center, a real true center, so we don't have to worry about little snap issues, would be nice to see. Then we can move Mr. Connor Williams over to left guard, his true position. And then with one move, hit 2 birds with 1 stone. You get another center and you improve center and guard. And you still have Teron Armstead, Connor Williams at left guard, a new center, Robert Hunt. And then we've got to figure out the right tackle situation still and a bit of tackle depth in general. But yeah, Matt Applebaum, I am happy with what he's did. Again, with we got coaching there, and exactly. And then you have exactly. There's almost 3 birds with 1 stone because then you get a backup center in Connor Williams again. And it gives us a little bit more flexibility. And exactly, yeah, man, great idea to move on for center. Like it's 3 birds with 1 stone. Adding a center to the Miami Dolphins offensive line over this offseason grants us a new center, bolsters up at left guard, and even gives us a backup center in Connor Williams, so then you just get a lot more flexibility on this line because apparently we're going to be banged up. And there are stats that say, teams that face a lot of injuries in one year, the next year, they are bound for regression and they aren't facing too many injuries. But it's the Miami Dolphins. I'm not going to blindly sit here and say we're not going to face a bunch of injuries, that everything stars are going to lie next season. Everything's going to be fine. And I apologize for my dogs, but we are still looking forward for the Miami Dolphins. I still think that again, a lot of pieces to build on. If we improve our offensive line, whether it's adding a center, whether it's improving our tackle and guard depth, whether it's through the draft or free agency, that is the first step. And that will in turn help us improve our run game, help solidify our passing game as well. Obviously, getting a running back would be awesome. I don't think we have the answer, whether it's resigning Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson again, who are on short contracts. I don't think they're exactly the answers we're looking for the Miami Dolphins. Savon Ahmed, I didn't exactly impress me yesterday either, and Myles Gaskin has done basically nothing this season. So we need a new running back. And it would have been nice in the draft, but who knows? Maybe we'll get like a second or third round guy, day 2, day 3 kind of runner. But I'd love something more electric. And again, I've got to still look into this offseason. I haven't taken the knife out my chest yet and allowed myself to dive down the rabbit hole this offseason. I've got to see who's still available for free agency for running backs. Off the top of my head, I know guys like Jamal Williams are going to be free, but I want a true running back. I want a true stud, not just another stopgap veteran, which is why through the draft is probably our best option if McDaniel can scope one out for us. Receiving wise, I'm very happy still. Like we said, we're fourth in the offense and fourth NFL in passing. Waddle and Tyree combined for over 3,000 yards, with Tyree getting 1,700 yards, best season in the NFL for him. Waddle getting 1,300 yards. The pieces are there. And I still need to see a little bit more growth if we could develop still a true wide receiver 3. I'm not talking about River Craycraft and Trent Sherfield making little plays. I'm talking about what Cedric Wilson was supposed to be, what we thought Eric Ezekama briefly showed glimpses of in the preseason. Solidify that role. This offense will continue to get even scarier. I don't think we're going to make any crazy moves through there in the offseason. And I understand there's a lot of people annoyed with Jalen Waddle right now after a couple of those drops. The first drop was egregious. It was pretty sad. Some of those are good plays by Buffalo. But again, 1,300 yards by Jalen Waddle, second consecutive season with 1,000 yards. A man who has put this team on his back some games last year, who has done everything he can. I'm not going to toss him out just for a couple drops. I'm not going to trade him away. Okay, this is, again, the most favorable situation for a quarterback to have is to have 2 bona fide electric receivers. Waddle and Hill give us that. And while it wasn't Waddle's day yesterday, particularly the entire game, late he did catch that deep shot that allowed us to have a fighting shot. And if we didn't get that little delay of game that went us from 4th and 1 to 4th and 6 and ultimately missing on 4th down, who knows? We could have been talking about a whole different story right now. No offseason talk. We could have maybe been speculating about Kansas City. Okay. I agree, though. The zoo is staying. We need the improvements. If there's anything I'm improving, huge, solid tight end, it'd be too much to ask for. Yeah, man. Like, at the end of the day, I love what Mike Gesicki can bring to the table on paper, in theory, and we saw him be that big red zone threat yesterday, catching a nice touchdown. Scott Thompson seems to favor him, and I love that. But it doesn't seem like we maximize him to his capabilities. So again, we have to ask ourselves a tough question. Are we going to pay Mike Gesicki? And if we are, that means we have to commit to putting him in the best situation to succeed. Okay. And apparently that doesn't mean asking him to block too much, because he's still not improved as a blocker. And entering his 5th year, I don't believe he is going to be blossoming into this elite blocker anytime soon. So what we've got is what we've got. And what we've got is a mismatched 6'6", 250-pound monster who runs a 4.52, I believe, something ridiculous like that. Mike Gesicki is an absolute animal. And weapons like him don't grow on trees every day. So if you're telling me that after a full season of his own film through his own eyes, Mike McDaniel saying, this is what I have, in Mike Gesicki. And maybe we don't need to develop that crazy wide receiver 3 because you're just going to make Mike Gesicki that hybrid-esque role. Sure. Pay the man, commit to him. If not, we're going to have to let him walk. All right. Like, if you're not going to commit to him, if you're going to just make him this little role player, this little gadget piece, we can't pay him more than what we've already paid him on the tag this season. So it'd be a shame, but we would accumulate a 3rd-round pick, and we would focus on Smythe, who is nice in a pinch, decent blocker, decent hands, and maybe get a new tight end who does fit this scheme a little bit better. Reallocate that Mike Gesicki money into a guy who will fit us a little bit nicer. Don't know who that is yet, but it would be nice to see, particularly not through the draft, hopefully, because tight ends do take a little bit longer usually to develop. It's rare to get a guy like Pat Fryermuth from the Steelers, who just immediately plug and plays and just has a knack to be a star-changing tight end from the beginning. I'm not saying that Fryermuth has been that crazy piece, but he's pretty nice. We've got to see. We've got to see what we do at the tight end position, but yeah, exactly. Too expensive for a wide receiver 3. It'd have to be like a tight end, wide receiver 3 hybrid role that use extensively while we develop another tight end, perhaps. But development time, 100%. But that is why we drafted Hunter Long. Exactly. So it could be another hard question. Does Hunter Long fill in that role? And maybe we don't need to do something crazy. And again, I would trust John Embry and I would trust Mike McDaniel to see that. Gentlemen, 2 coaches who have worked together in San Francisco, who worked here. John Embry's a great tight end coach. And if they think it's Hunter Long, if they think it's moving on from Gesicki, if they think it's keeping Gesicki, I'll trust their eyes. This year was a bit questionable, but hey, we got to move forward. We got to look on. We can only move ahead. So what can we expect from the Miami Dolphins? On offense, I think those are the bit of the speculations we can see. Before I go back to Buffalo, I think I'm going to continue down the speculation hole because I'm just enjoying it. I think on the defensive side, we talked a bit about Boyer, whether we keep him or not. For those who are just joining us, I think that if we keep Boyer, good. We're letting him develop a little bit more, grow without the shadow of Brian Flores. And it'll be nice to see if we make a new move for defensive coordinator. Well, it better be a nice big splash. But as for actually on defense, a couple tough questions. Xavier Howard has clearly taken a step back. He is no longer this bona fide cornerback 1 killer comeback. What is up, Batman? How's it going, boss? Big vibing, man. Just talking a little Dolphins, bro. Just recovering a little bit from yesterday. A little bit of a fun, too many drinks at Twin Peaks, but it was all good. Shout out my buddies Nathan and Alan for making sure I got back a good and a smoothly. But Batman, hope you're doing good, man. Just talking a little Dolphins. I talked a little bit about the games, my initial post-game thoughts, and then I got started just talking speculation and talking about a little forward what we might. What general moves we might make, because I haven't really looked into it. Probably talk about the Bills game backing into a second. How you doing though, boss? But yeah, guys, I think Xavier Howard has clearly taken a tad of a step back. And we got hope. I love how he battled tough with the good team, man. I agree, bro. I agree. Like, it was fun to see the Miami Dolphins for once hang tough. And it's why I don't think we should make too many moves on defense, besides maybe adding more corner help, maybe moving around a guy like Byron Jones for an actual corner who's going to be on the field. But I was admirable fight from Kader Kohu. Xavier Howard's giving me a tough question to ask, but I do think we battled tough with the good team on their home turf, man. We saw Buffalo. We know that they have a great fan base. That they have a lot of noise, that they bring it, and they have a competitive fire. They've got Josh Allen. They've got their own feisty defense, and it showed. But we lost by 3 points. 3 points, man, with a third-string quarterback, with a decimated secondary, with a weird D-line, or an interesting offensive line configuration. I'm still very happy with this Miami Dolphins team, Batman. I'm glad you think the same, Batman. We're usually on the same page because great minds think alike, boss, man. I thought you were going to stream actually today. Um, but you normally do a great show, guys. For those who don't have already checked it out, Finsaholic Show hosted by Batman is awesome. Definitely give it a little subscribe, a little check out. Batman's always got the great fire panels. I myself usually get a little lost in panels, but Batman's a killer. Great man. But exactly, keep the players we all know. You know, I still think we shocked. Agreed. Like I still think we put up a lot. You know, a lot of Buffalo fans were probably scratching their heads a little bit silenced, a little bit wondering how they even ended up in this situation. Only up by 3. Maybe they're not these crazy Titans, these crazy colossal Super Bowl contenders that they believed they were to be. But dang, it's still a fun time. And I agree. I don't think we should make these crazy changes on defense. Maybe adding a little bit of help to the secondary. You know, remember, this is a secondary that has been decimated by injuries. First of all, Byron Jones never even showed up. True Williams, Mackenzie Alexander, torn ACLs. Nick Needham shortly after with another torn ACL. Brandon Jones as well. A lot of these guys will be coming next year hungry, wishing that they had been there in the playoffs. Another chip on their shoulder. A lot of these guys, undrafted guys or third rounders and later, ready to come and go. If we move Byron Jones, if we move on from him and we get another real corner, oh, baby, that'd be phenomenal to see. That'd be absolutely a beautiful thing and a wonderful thing to see. Because Xavier Howard, I do believe he took a step back. There were still some flashes and still some moments where he made his plays, where he did his cheese. You know, X Man did, I believe he got a pick, right, guys? That's not my imagination. I'm gonna double check, so I'm not speaking out of turn, but Mr. Xavier Howard, where are your stats? Yeah, he got a pick. So what am I saying? Xavier Howard did take a step back, but he got a pick in the playoffs. Okay, yes, he got toasted sometimes. The speed is not necessarily always there, but I'm still maybe make him our cornerback 2, cornerback 1B, you know, maybe not the guy who has all this elite pressure on him. It'd be tough to move on from Byron due to that big contract, but if we can trade him away, it alleviates some space or maybe parlay it into another move for another corner. That'd be beautiful to see. I do love Cater Co's development, though. So someone I want to continue to focus on. Sam Madison, you have a gem there. Please continue to hone his skill, his technique. He's a little tad grabby, but like we said, when Xavier Howard is coming into the NFL, coming out of Baylor into the second round, the only big knock on him was he was a bit handsy, bit too pulley, grabby, and was resulting in a lot of penalties. If he cleaned that up, he'd blossom into this premier corner. And for a time, he did. He was awesome to see that. And he's taken a tad of a step back now. But Kader Kohu, another young corner, another young, hungry guy, a little bit handsy. But if he cleans it up, I'd love to see another step forward for him next season. I'm not saying he could step up to be a cornerback 1 necessarily in year 2. We are talking about an undrafted free agent, Division 2 corner last year. But he has shown a bunch of promise, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm excited to see what True Williams and Nick Needham do when they come back. There is reason to be excited for this secondary. Brandon Jones, one of my favorite players on the Dolphins, when he comes back, monstrous. He's definitely a guy we missed, a short tackling safety. Great at picking up pressure. Dang, I missed. Dang. But yes, Kader Cove is an amazing find. Absolutely phenomenal find. Bada bing, bada bam. Batman, I was just checking. I don't know if you're still here. I know it says you're going at 6. If you want to hop on for a tad, I'm down to drop the link. It's always a pleasure to chat up with you, boss, for right now. But if not, I shall continue with talking. As for linebackers, guys, I do think, as lovely as it was to see Javon Holland roam in the middle of the field, patrolling, making his presence known, a pick of his own, and making some game-changing plays, I would definitely love a real linebacker. Hats off to Duke Riley, Jerome Baker for doing their part this season, especially Duke Riley, a player that it sticks in my hand and it sticks in my head. And I teased that at my buddy Alan, who used to dabble a little bit of linebacker in high school when we watched at the training camps, the open camps back in the summer. I looked at him and I said, hey, you might be able to give Duke Riley a bit running for his money, get on the field, strap up, and be good to go. And then Duke really made it an insane athletic play. And since then, he has stepped up admirably. Obviously, there are moments where it's not exactly all amazing for Duke. The same goes with Jerome Baker, and most of our linebacking core is not exactly the greatest patrollers of the midfield, but it'd be nice to see what you could add a little bit there. Um, add some more talent. There's no reason why, honestly, guys like Landon Roberts, Duke Riley should be taking as many snaps as they do. They are more of role players, guys who in spurts can make big plays. I'd love to see some more linebacking help added. A true middle linebacker would go a long way to making this defense to the next level. As for defensive line, though, I was very happy to see them boys bring the pressure. Finally, the Miami Dolphins were able to do it. Like I said, there was a strip sack by Eric Rowe, not exactly D line, but half a sack by Mr. Jalen Phillips, and plenty of times where he's almost there. Jalen Phillips is the king of the almost play, but it does rattle the QBs a bit. He gets some hits sometimes, a hand in their face, a hand near in their space. So, Jalen Phillips, thank you for the growth you've continued to show this season. Zach Steeler had himself a freaking game with 2 sacks and a touchdown. My God, Thor, I hope you stay on this team for a long time to come. 92 or a 94 for Mr. Wilkins would look so freaking nice up there with all these short little numbers. Please, Mr. Zach Steeler, I hope you stay on the Fins for a long time to come. Whoo, baby. Christian Wilkins had a sack of his own and a couple of tackles as well. That's what you love to see, man. Bradley Chubb finally had himself a sack as well. And I know that we want to see more from Chubb. I know there are times where it seems like his play leaves a little bit to be desired, but Bradley Chubb, we cannot understate the presence he has done on this team, the attention he commands, allowing all of our other players to fly around, flit flat around the field, and absolutely splat a quarterback. Okay. I am very happy still of this edition. Time will tell how worth it was for the first round pick and all the money we shellacked out for him. But I do believe it's still a good move on our part, Mr. Bradley Chubb. Make your presence known. Talk your talk. But the Miami Dolphins had their sacks. They were knocking Josh Allen around, and we love to see that. Which is why, like I was saying, I'm not sure if we should move on from Boyer. We should move on from a man who dialed up such an impressive defensive play, impressive defensive game this past Sunday. I'm going to credit more of the talent we have on defense and the players finally showing through and shining through, knowing it all fell on the defense. They had to have had this mentality. And I don't like to speculate or speak for others, but I have to believe the defense said, it's on us. It's time for us to get out there, Rock. We need to score a touchdown. We need to bring the house. We need to bring in pressure. We need to do everything we can. We're going to let up points, sure, but we need to bring in plays to counteract that as well. And I liked what I saw. I love the fight. I love the fight that these Fins had. Okay. Fins up, chins up, 1,000%. These gentlemen left everything on the field and battled their hardest. That's why we want to make some moves, and there are some moves we can do to free up some cap space and to give us a little bit more flexibility to shake things up a little bit further. I am proud of this Dolphins team to the point that after what I saw yesterday, I don't want to move too much. I don't want to stir the pot up so much that we don't recognize the meal we've been eating. Okay. Because I want me some seconds. I want me some more of what we've had, but let's improve it a tad. Let's continue to see what the Dolphins can do with further investment. Okay. With further promise and look to the future, what can the Miami Dolphins do? Okay. I believe that they can continue to grow. I believe they can continue to get better, continue to shine. But we're going to have to ask a lot of tough questions this offseason to see if we get to that next level. Our D finally get out of the 20s, 18th going into the final week. Okay. So you see, that's, again, it's a defense that, while there was definitely talented, more talented than it was last year, it's definitely a lot more banged up than it was last year as well. So we've got to see. And I can't even say he was truly more talented. We had 2 premier corners last year, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. It's a mixed bag. It's This is not supposed to be a full offseason review. Just a bit of speculation, looking towards the Finns' future. Just talking about how proud I am of these Dolphins battling. For those of us still watching so far, I'm going to keep talking, but if you're still here, drop a like, comment goes a long way. Subscribe to the channel. The road to 750 subscribers continues. It'd be awesome. Give me a little help out, connect me to more Dolphins fans, and allow me to continue talking my positive Dolphins vibes. But I'm happy that we battled. Is there anyone who is not happy with the performance we showed yesterday? I understand being critical over Skyler, over McDaniel, over the defense, even for letting over 30 points, for us missing a couple plays, for Skyler's picks, for drops, all these things to be upset for. And complaining and afraid that we are going to fall in this hole of complacency, that we're going to allow ourselves to continue being mediocre, that we're taking a victory lap and taking moral victories that mean nothing. But I'm still happy for this Dolphins performance, considering what we showed up last time in 2016, considering this is our third playoff appearance in 22 years. And we do have to wait a tad longer for another playoff win, but I don't think there is a single soul out there who can, with a straight face, with confidence in their eyes, with pure sureness, say that the Dolphins embarrass themselves. There's no one out there trolling or making fun of us because the Dolphins played their freaking hardest and battled, man. And I wish we could have won. I wish we could have. I was definitely talking my talk, and I might have talked a little bit too early. My dad at one point had looked at him. We were both getting a little drinks going. When the rally started, he looked at me and said, if the Dolphins do pull this together and they do win, I'll send you. And he looked at my buddy Nathan, who was on the show last week. Definitely check out that episode. He looked at me and Nathan and said, if the Dolphins pull this win together, I'm sending you boys out first class to Kansas City. We're going to Missouri. And I would have loved that. Okay. And if my buddy Gavin ever sees this, shout out the legend. He works for Kansas City. He's a photographer, takes some great shots, great footage. It would have been awesome to see him and chat it up with him as well. But it was not to be the case, guys. What should our one priority this offseason be? One priority, Freddie. One priority. It's a little hard because I do think we have a bunch of tough questions. What are we going to do with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones? Like, what is that secondary going to look like? What is going to happen with quarterback? We do have to pick up that fifth option. Deadline is May 2nd. We're not sure what we're going to do with Tua, whether we're going to invest in more backups, whether we're going to make a bigger play for another quarterback, whether we're just going to stay with Tua and Teddy, with Tua and Skyler. No Teddy, fuck that guy. A bunch of tough questions. If I have to say what is one priority, finish fixing this offensive line. Finish fixing this offensive line so that we don't have to face any more quarterback injuries, so that they're nice and protected. Just fixing this offensive line so that the passing game does have time to hold up and to actually develop and thrive, okay, so that we can build our plays the way they're supposed to be built. Fix the offensive line so that the running game can also look a bit better. I want us to get a new running back, obviously, and instill some more energy in that room. But fixing the offensive line just helps us in so many facets of the game that I do think that has to be the priority. It has been an issue for the Dolphins for my entire life, for over 20 years. And while we did make some strides, it's not done yet. Okay, adding a center fixes us in multiple positions. It allows us to go Teron Armstead, which we still need more tackle depth. But a move into a center allows us to go Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, new center, Robert Hunt, and whether we decide it's Austin Jackson or we need a new right tackle and adding more depth. It's just a whole new piece of the puzzle, unlocked, finished. We really need that. Okay, offensive line, I think, is a massive priority. But great question, Freddie. Appreciate you, boss. How can the Dolphins continue to develop now? Exactly, man. Like, we've got the offensive line experience to focus. And finally, there's a nice balance. No longer is Jesse Davis the veteran in the room. We've had Teron Armstead coaching up these guys for a year, as well as Matt Applebaum, who's done great work from Boston College. Another year in this system, and Matt Applebaum's coaching under Mike McDaniel's system. will do wonders for this O line, who will continue to gel and continue to get better. A lot of offensive line is chemistry, you know, so it doesn't help when injuries happen. But another year under the same system, another year working together, hopefully this offensive line will continue to gel and in turn just help us in the passing and the running game. And you love to see that, man. Probably got 10 more minutes in me, guys, and then I've gotta tap out. The old stomach is not going so well right now. But last 10 minutes, are there any questions you guys might have? Maybe anything you want to talk about, speculate towards for the off season? Anything that you were happy about from the game yesterday? Anything that really grinded your gears? Anything that got you upset? Whatever it may be. I'm always down to take some questions, chop it up, talk some little Dolphins talk. Tomorrow I will be feeling a little better. It will be Talk It Out Tuesday. So I will be opening up for a panel. I think I'm going probably from 1:30 to 3 o'clock tomorrow. I am going on clock blockers in the morning though. So might just go 2 to 3 here on Nando Talk. Give me a little bit of time to recover from clock blockers, but we'll see there. How should we fix the salary cap? So, Freddie, that gives us more tough questions, man. Obviously, moving on from Byron Jones would be a big step, but then it leaves us a bit of a hole in the secondary that we saw, a secondary that leaves a little bit to be desired. Maybe we can get a cheaper cornerback too to complement Xavier Howard. Maybe we can get a younger piece. But if we move on from Byron Jones, I do think that we are going to be filling up some of that, whatever money that frees up, we'll be filling up that cap back up with another corner move. There's been talk of maybe if we added Bradley Chubb, if that piece had totally worked out, maybe moving on from a guy like Emmanuel Ogbah, who we also paid big money and is coming off an injury. However, Ogbah just grew a little bit harder on me just because he was talking his talk about that if Kansas City, if we had gone there next week, he was ready to play through an injury, and that would have been freaking awesome to see, man. But blessings up. Fins in the house. Thanks for tuning in, boss. Always a pleasure, man. Always appreciate you. Sick logo, by the way. Check out Fins in the house if you haven't already. Dang, that's awesome. But exactly, the cap is kind of cap as well. So like Ogbah, there are some moves to be made. And especially because I want to pay Christian Wilkins, and we are going to have to, like I said, fix the offensive line, fix the running game a tad. There are some moves to be made. Maybe we trade Cedric Wilson. Although he had a nice return, man. He's had his nice spurts. I think that we can start to figure him out as well. It's going to be tough to fix the cap, but Fins in the house is also right. Cap is kind of cap. I'm confident that a GM, whether it is Greer or not, can fix this round and move it up. Yeah, exactly. I've seen Greer do cap magic so many times, which brings me to this question, guys. Are we going to stay with Chris Greer or move on from Chris Greer? Talk about mixed bags. His draft performances over the last couple of years have been interesting. He's found gems like Wilkins, like Holland, like Brandon Jones. He's whiffed on some picks like Igbenogany, Austin Jackson. Not that they're bad players, but maybe drafted a little too high. And there's been injury-prone players, been lack of depth issues, a lot of questionable stuff under the Greer campaign, a lot of promising stuff as well. So whether we should move on from him is one of the toughest questions we have to ask ourselves. GM usually decides, the other coaching staffs and the other staff hires in the building. So if we do move on from GM, there is talks that maybe even he wants to bring his own coach. Would it be fair to him to just strap him up with Mike McDaniel, a second-year coach? Who knows? Again, it's one of the tougher questions to ask. I do like what Greer does with cap space. I do like what we have to do. But I don't think that there's this magical man that's going to fix this Miami Dolphins team. So if we do stay with Chris Greer, the powers that be keep it. And his magic at times will be needed. And that's all I got to say on the Chris Greer situation. I've got to sit with it a little bit more and actually break it down in a further offseason episode. But that's exactly, not saying Greer is great, but when it comes to the cap, he's got it well. But I wouldn't mind a new GM coming in. Mixed bag, mixed feelings with Chris. I don't know if it's Christopher or Christian Greer, but you get the point, guys. A lot to be said about the Miami Dolphins over this offseason. A lot to be thought of, whether it's the cap space, whether it's the future of this team, whether it's just further moves to be made. All in all, I am proud of what the Miami Dolphins have done this season. This offseason is a big question, but this season has definitely been something to be proud of. Mike McDaniel, first-year coach, ups and downs, a lot to learn from, a lot of mistakes, sure, a lot of promising signs as well. Fourth-rated passing offense, despite all of these ups and downs with the quarterbacks, with the injuries. 3 wins, 3 losses, 5 wins, 5 losses, a win and a playoff loss. An interesting season for Mike McDaniel. An interesting season for this Miami Dolphins team in general. But we clap it up for our Finns, who put up one hell of a fight, one hell of a campaign. And I will continue to be bringing us positive vibes. You know, that's the only way I know how to fan. I was a bit sad. I was a bit frustrated at the end of yesterday's game. The emotions were big in my chest, swelling up. I'm going to put in my a couple videos really quickly. So if you be careful on your ears, I scream in a couple of them, but I am proud of this Miami Dolphins team. Fins up always. Fins up, chins up. You know me. I don't have to have my Homer hat to be a Miami Dolphins homer. Just got to be a Dolphins fan with the flipper up. My cousin, if you are watching this, Cuzzo, I'm going to ask for a new hat with the fin over. This is awesome, but I am starting to overuse it. So 2 hats would be nice to switch it up, but that's awesome. Shout out her. Got to figure out a way how to get these hats to the people. But I'm going to share a little bit of videos of me yesterday live from Twin Peaks to wrap this up. Because I had fun. I had fun at Peaks, you know. I had fun with the buddies. I was with me, my dad, my younger brother. Shout out Tommy. You're a legend. My dad's best friend and one of my good family friends, Diego. And 2 of my buddies, Nathan and Alan. Great season, Section 349 season tickets. I actually have to finish re-upping my tickets today. We're thinking of changing sections, so I've got to re-talk to my season ticket rep about that. David, hold on. Don't cancel my seats. We're changing seats. That's why. Alrighty. But let me share this screen really quick. All right. What do we got? All right, Jamal. You guys hear that? You can hear? Let me know. It's a fun time. Let's fucking go! My favorite one, though, if we can hear everything. My buddy just flipping around in a little chair right there. An absolute legend. Can everybody hear before I continue? Because I've got a little important video, I would say.
2022-2023 season. I am beyond proud of the Miami Dolphins 2022-2023 season. I'm so proud of these Dolphins. The fucking fight, the fire these boys had, absolutely unreal. 31-34 versus the Buffalo Bills. We lost, we're out of the playoffs. But what a fight with your third string quarterback. injuries, adversity, back against the wall. And there we fought, there we hung in. Cheers to the Dolphins. Let's ride, baby. Positive vibes, always. We'll see you next year.
There you have it. Honestly, that was my immediate post game yesterday response. Sorry if there was a little loudness to all of that, but I was very energetic, very hyped yesterday at the bar, and I would have loved to have been cheering like that in Buffalo. And I did tell myself that if we won that game, I was going to Kansas City. Sorry, I know it's not in the state of Kansas; it's in Kansas City's in Missouri. Stupidest thing ever, but I digress. That's how I felt, man. I was very proud of the fight. I was proud of everything we displayed yesterday. Left it all on the field for all 4 quarters. For once, we finally got to see a Miami Dolphins team fight for 4 quarters, offense, defense, and special teams. Do what they could, do what they needed to do, almost to the end, fought valiantly. Did it suck that there were some coaching woes, some missed calls, some botched plays on our part as well? Of course. Did it suck that the Miami Dolphins couldn't hang on to the end? That we fell short, that we had a 4th and 1, go to 4th and 6 because of stupid not time mismanagement, and then ultimately failing that 4th down? Of course. Did it suck that we did end up beating Buffalo? Yes. But hang your heads up high knowing that the Miami Dolphins went toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl contender. Injuries be damned. Everything against our favor. And we still stepped up to the plate, rose to the challenge on a stage where everyone in the NFL was ready to laugh at us, ready to say that the Miami Dolphins were getting mollywopped. Okay. The day after the 49ers absolutely embarrassed the Seahawks, the day after the Chargers had a horrendous collapse and choked away a loss to the Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins went out there and fought. Okay. We fought with our third string quarterback. We fought with the rookie coach and a rookie QB. We fought injuries be damned, drops and woes, out of our element, and dove in there. Exactly. We didn't just make the playoffs, we played. So many people were comparing us to the Patriots team of last year that went into the playoffs just to be thrown into the meat grinder. A nice warm-up game for the Buffalo Bills. I think they demolished them like 40 to something. 40 Buffalo Bills versus Patriots. I'm going to check out that exactly. Buffalo Bills, Patriots playoff. 47-17 last year. That's what we were compared to. Okay. A team that was going to get out there and smacked around by 30 points. Okay. Instead, 31-34. We lost by 3 points, not 30 points. So no Patriots fan, no Bills fan, no Jets fan, no football fan, no anyone gets to smack talk these Miami Dolphins who went out there, played their asses off, played everything on the line, and almost came away with the victory on the road. Okay. The momentum, the energy, we would have been surging into Arrowhead, into Kansas City. Oh, I love that. And I will have to believe there's a timeline, there is an alternate dimension, a little different universe somewhere out there that they're enjoying that victory, that they're getting ready for Kansas. And it's not us. We are not in that good timeline, but we are still in the timeline where we witnessed our Miami Dolphins fight their asses off. And I am proud of them boys. Hope we all are too. To anyone who said we were going to get smacked, steamrolled, mollywopped, run over, haha, is all I got to say to you, honestly. Haha. I was one of the fools, the little clowns. I love to wave my pom-poms. I love to get cheerful. I love to get over energetic and believe that the Dolphins always have a shot in any game. And a lot of my talk, a lot of my thoughts this past game were not really based off of actual fact and football knowledge. It was based a lot off of faith, a lot of can these stars align. It was a lot of, am I throwing on the tinfoil hat? Am I throwing on the Homer hat? Whatever it may be, whatever Nando personality was going to come out, was a lot of faith. But faith pays off almost. And it's tough to say because we still lost and there's still no moral victories and it still is a massive pill to swallow. Delayed waves, it is still hitting me. But we played hard. And that is the end of the day, that was the expectations I came in with, at least me. That is the expectations I came with, was to battle, to play to the whistle, a full 4 quarters, just playing for a full 60 minutes, laying everything on the line. And I'm proud of the Miami Dolphins, proud of their play, proud of them for walking out of that stadium head held high after battling their asses off against one of the best teams in the NFL. We'll get them next year, hopefully. That's the mentality I've got to have. We played the Buffalo Bills 3 times this year, and each time was a close game of less than a touchdown, a play or two away. We lost by 3 points this time, 3 points last time. And dare I say the first game was 19-22 as well, so another 3 points. Yeah, that's right. We were right there with the Buffalo Bills. We have a point differential of less than a touchdown with the Buffalo Bills over 3 games. Good odds for any team, good odds for any man. I'll take that against Buffalo. I will hang my head high as well. Chins up, fins up, always. This is the Dolphins team that did not go quietly into the night, that did not tuck its tail in between its leg, that did not whimper away and say, well, we're just going to get creamed. No, not at all. And as a football fan, I can be proud of that. This was boxing. To put it in those kinds of terms, we thought that our guy was going to get knocked out in round 1, round 2. We're at the very least destroyed as the champion or as the contender. Chipped away at us and took shots at us and bloodied us the entire game. And instead, our Dolphins team hung into the fight, Rocky Balboa style, to the end. Yes, Rocky loses in Rocky 1. But if we all know he won the crowd's hearts, huh? He got the victory. He ends up with Adrian, huh? The Dolphins end up with hope. Huh? You like that? You like that little tie-in? I do. I appreciate it myself. Pat on the back for you, Nando. And a pat on the back for all the Miami Dolphins players. We have a couple tough questions to ask this offseason heading into it, but at the end of the day, I believe that the Dolphins are headed in the right direction, that the pieces are there, that the promise is not a false one. There are good things to come for this Miami Dolphins organization, that we have turned a corner and that we are no longer to say the season is ending. The season is ending, of course, but it's just the first chapter in a new book. And I love to say that for the Miami Dolphins. I do believe we changed the corner, that we've got a new culture coming up and a new fun time. Good show. Dare I say a fun show when it's too early? Why not? Hey, fun show, good show. I appreciate you all who tuned in, who listened. If you are still here, I know nobody likes hearing it, but you drop a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Definitely helps out. We're almost at 750. Share through the video. If you're watching on Twitter, give it a like, give it a retweet. Helps me connect to more Dolphins fans. If you're checking it out on YouTube, a little subscribe, like, comment, whatever interaction. Engagement is always helpful for the channel. And I love connecting to new Dolphins fans. So whether a new face or an old face, thank you for listening to Nando Talk. I greatly appreciate you. If you want to check me out on more socials, here it is really quickly. That is my Twitter. That is my YouTube. Just always check me out for more positive Dolphins vibes. I will be talking tomorrow again. I think I'm going 2 to 3 o'clock for Talk It Out Tuesday. I'll be opening up the panel. Maybe I'm starting at 1:30. I'll do a community post just to be safe. Thursday is going to be little tinfoil hat Thursdays. And on Thursday, I'll probably be upgrading this with maybe a Dolphins logo, maybe some further sculpting. This is gonna be my best tinfoil hat yet. It's not going to break like the other ones did. Tomorrow I will also be on Clock Blockers in the morning. Tuesday, me and Stephen D, we always crack it down. Hot Take Tuesdays. Check us out there as well. Just got over 10,000 subscribers there, so that's always awesome. And then that's pretty much the schedule. I'll be doing the Monday shows, Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. Maybe if I do Wednesday, it'll be more spontaneous. A little bit of Wakata Wednesdays are always a fun time. I just get a little high energy and nice to buzzing and going. No coffee, no energy drinks, no caffeine, no stimulants, nothing. Just my high energy, high buzzing. Not the show for everybody, but if you want some high, crazy, high action, Wednesday's always a fun time as well. I will also be getting some more buddies of mine coming on the show. You guys saw my show with Spencer last week. A very good show indeed. I loved it. Honestly, one of my favorite shows. That's when I talk with my buddy here. It's when we have that little hooligan at the bottom there. Buddy lives in New York, a great Dolphins fan, and I've done the Fumble Brewski with him for ages. But we are also now he's just accepted that we're just doing Nano Talk from now on. I love the Fumble Brewski. It was a fun time if you ever saw me with this, but Nano Talk is the vibe, the motion of the ocean to keep going forward. My buddy Nathan as well. You saw him last week on Friday. We did a Dolphins Bills preview. We're doing more shows with Nate. He lives right around the corner, and it's a nice time to get a nice live in-person talk with Nathan. Is always a good chat. And I got my other buddies in my season tickets. We'll be breaking it down further with them. It's always got a good crew, good buddies, good football talk around with them. And I know this has been the longest outro ever, but I just wanted to give you some further updates on what's coming up in the Nando Talk world as well. So thank you all for tuning in to the show. Much appreciated. Very humbling to get anyone to listen. So I thank you all. To those who did tune in, hey, subscribed. I appreciate you that. When you subscribe, you're on with another podcaster. Glad I did. Hey, awesome, man. I appreciate that. Hooked Up Joe. Thanks for that, man. Cheers to everyone. Sucks that we were on the off season a little earlier than expected, a little later for those who you may ask, but I had a fun time. Thank you to the Miami Dolphins for giving me this sick poster that I will be hanging, I believe, right here. Yep, it looks like a good time, a good spot to have it. And as always, fins up, chins up, and I'll catch you tomorrow, 1:30 or 2 o'clock for Talk It Out Tuesdays. Thank you all for tuning in. Bada bing, bada bam. And I'll catch you all. Peace. I'm doing all the outros today. Thank you all for listening.